Numbat here, back with another Zorr video. Today I'm going to be going over the top 5 most nerfed petals. Number 5 is going to be the magic sponge. So there used to be an exploit where if the mana soak overcapped, the sponge would simply reset itself and do the soak all over again, which essentially tripled your DPS. The base capacity was increased, but this was not nearly enough to compensate for the nerf. Here's an explanation of how the magic sponge used to work. So this used to be 8,000 soak capacity, and when a petal was used, like this for example here, it normally cost 1,280 mana, but it instead spread it over a period of 45 seconds, which meant you could use it a ton. And then when the sponge reached 8k, it simply reset, and after a short break you could spam a ton of these again, and basically you'd have millions of DPS. But now you can't do that anymore, because since when it reaches the cap, it just very slowly regenerates, because all the mana is going towards healing this cap and not going towards reloading your DPS petals. Number 4 on the list is going to be magic salt. So basically there once used to be an exploit where if a player using corruption was salt bombed by another player, it'd result in millions of damage, hundreds of million damage, which would sometimes be enough to one-shot a whole super hive and everything inside it if you had enough ultra magic salts. Right now, magic salt is clearly not worth using because it costs mana to load. It is mid DPS compared to other magic petals, and salt bombing often requires the player to die, which is not worth it to deal a little bit of damage to a few more mobs. For number 3, we have magic fire. This one is very simple. Basically, it used to work with oxygen, but the devs decided to remove that because it was way too overpowered. Right here is a possible build that could have been used when oxygen worked with magic fire. Basically, you need the oxygen to have enough reload to make the fire permanent. Here it's got a 1.41 second reload, and each oxygen adds 0.53 seconds, which is basically permanent because there's 3 oxygens here. Also, the mana regen isn't really that important, because back then when oxygen worked with magic fire, the magic sponge exploit still worked, meaning a super magic leaf or anything similar would be more than enough to handle dealing with these magic fires. Number 2 on the list is actually a few petals which are all ghost type petals. There are basically 6 damage types in Zorr, which are physical, fire, poison, lightning, ice, and ghost. Ghost type petals can penetrate through armor and enemies seamlessly. Why this is so high on the list is attributed to the number 1 petal on the list, which made these insanely overpowered before it was nerfed to the ground. Basically, how Magic Burr became broken was that this cap was temporarily abolished, which meant that petals that dealt a low amount of damage very quickly would just deal an insane amount of damage on high damage mobs. When it was nerfed, its mana cost was increased, but that was never reverted when the nerf below here was implemented. Alright, back to the ghost type petals. So Magic Burr used to have a debuff percentage of 40%, which meant that if a mob dealt 656,100 damage, it would debuff its armor by 262,440. Right here, it says that each honey tile deals 1,093.5 damage and 21,870 damage per second. That means honey tiles deal damage 20 times per second. But then, before Magic Burr was fixed, this damage would be increased by its armor debuff, which basically meant honey could deal like 50 million DPS on high damage mobs. The same thing applies to ghost eggs. When they are on top of their target, they will hit 20 times per second, and this was amplified to insane levels. Alright, that's going to be it for today. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like. And honestly, I hope this gets buffed because right now it's just completely garbage.